The boys are back in town, this time in Paris, I think. Keir Starmer's gone over there to talk to him about the coalition of the willing, and Macron has put his arm around him a couple of times, and they're now standing on the steps. I don't know if that's the Elysee Palace there. They're really, really quite friendly now. There they are, shaking hands, posing for the cameras. It's not a good look, I'm afraid.
Very handsy, they really
they're
are.
very handsy. Well, I said this about Keir Starmer. Sorry, Tim Montgomerie's here. Very good morning to you. Officially.
Morning, Mike.
He's got this terrible habit. When Rachel Reeves finished and sat down yesterday, and you know that normally what you get from the Prime Minister is a pat on the back or something like that. He puts his hand on her shoulder. And oh, that's my microphone. Sorry. Puts her hand on his shoulder like this and leaves it there for about 5 seconds. Now, call me old-fashioned, but if you do that in an office now and put your hand on anybody's shoulder, whether it's a man or a woman, you probably get reported to HR.
Yeah, it's HR.
There he is there. He also did that terrible thing in America when he saw Donald Trump. When he went, "Here's my letter from the King," and then put his hand on Trump's shoulder for slightly too long as well. Yeah. He's definitely got a sort of an issue, hasn't he, with being handsy.
I think he's probably been told that this is the way to overcome the fact that he's sort of a bit of a grey person. Yeah. And but it looks awkward the way he does it.
It does.
It just does it that moment or two too long for it to be natural.
Yeah, because it's not really a pat. It's not really a sort of a gesture of affection. It's a kind of, I'm putting my hand there and just leaving it there. Yeah. It's quite odd, isn't it?
Yeah, no, this is very odd, yeah.
I mean, a terrible day, I think, for the government yesterday. Rachel Reeves getting traduced all over the place in the papers this morning. Even the Mirror and the Guardian have gone for her because the Joseph Rowntree Foundation have said they're going to put 250,000 people into poverty.
Labour values.
Yeah, I mean, hard to believe, isn't it? It's hard to believe that they're doing it. But the trouble is, are they really doing it? Because I'm not convinced that they're doing anything.
Well, I used to work for Ian Duncan Smith, and he undertook, he introduced universal credit, for example. Right. And the one thing you could say about what the Tories and the Lib Dems did when they were in coalition was they reformed welfare for a purpose. It was like there was a big picture reform. They were introducing a new benefit that was they made work pay. What Labour aren't doing, they're not even doing any big reform. They're just cutting. They're just like cheese paring. And I think it's a general criticism you can make of Rachel Reeves is, what's the point of any of this?
Yes.
It's like she's managing little bits of pockets of money, but for a government that said growth was the big mission, where's the big picture? Right. The only thing that they seem to be doing is building houses. But I don't know whether you noticed the figures yesterday, Mike. If you look at the number of new houses that they proposed to build by the end of this Parliament, and then you look at the extra amount of immigration that's going to come into this country, the new housing only just keeps up with the level of the immigration. So actually, British people already here, the chances of them getting a house aren't increased at all.
And somebody, did they not, I think, in the last few days, let it slip that, yes, there would be houses being made available for migrants coming into the country. So immediately, of course, people say, well, what proportion? Is it going to be 50%? Is it going to be 75%? What on earth is going on? And again, nobody really believes the numbers. They're not going to build 1.5 million houses because they haven't got even Jackie Smith admitted they haven't got the wherewithal. They're spending another 600 million attempting to train brickies and sparkies, carpenters and plasterers and electricians and all the rest of it. But that's, again, all of it's down the road. Nothing actually, there's no jam today, is there?
No. And you can bet, you're right, to be sceptical about that 1.5 million figure for house building. But do you think 1.5 million more immigrants will come in over the next 4 years? Of course they will. Of course they will.
Well, we're running around about sort of not far off 1 million a year at the moment, if you count the illegals and the so-called legals. And I mean, there is literally no more room in the country. The country is full.
We're overwhelmed. Some would say swamped. You get in trouble for saying a word like
not
swamp,
anymore.
wouldn't you?
Not on this show, you don't, because I think there is a sense that in some communities, they've been changed completely, and people can't get their kids into schools. They can't get their children doctor's appointments. They can't get children dentists at all because they haven't got enough. There's a reason for all of that. Nigel Farage is very, very right to point that out. What holds all these things together? It's the fact that we've got a lot more people here now.
No, immigration is the issue in British politics. And I'm afraid the fact is that so many people are coming into our country. The British people rightly feel they aren't the priority of this government. They really aren't the priority.
No, I mean, I get more and more people calling in and leaving voice notes to me saying, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I work until about 6 o'clock at night, I've got a job at the weekend, I'm trying to feed my family, everything's going up in price, my electricity bills are getting higher, I'm paying more and more tax. What is the bloody point when you've got billions of pounds going out every single year to illegal migrants who are being put up in hotels who don't have to pay for anything?
No, it's unbelievable. And I heard you've been listening to your programme, another great programme, Mike, all morning. And the fact is, will she survive? Because although we've just been talking about Keir Starmer, you know, patting her on the back, the reality is he has really given economic policy to her. He's not really interfered. He's not interested in economic policy. She's been able to run it, but it's not going well. And I think there's going to come a time shortly. You've got the newspapers there in front of you, all terrible headlines. He's not going to keep loyal to her.
He can't. I mean, I keep hearing from people, we had Kwasi Kwarteng on this week, and everybody says, oh, well, the thing is he can't really sack his Chancellor, because if he does, that reflects badly on him, and we all know that that then will probably mean he's out of a job. But I think the time has now passed. I think she's crossed the Rubicon. She's so bad that it's now affecting not just the government, but the whole country. And if growth is your main mission, and we had the data yesterday from the OBR, whether we believe the OBR or not is another question, but if you look at the OBR's numbers, they're only talking about 1.8% growth by the end of this Parliament. 1.8% growth is below the usual trend rate of growth for this economy. So if that's their main objective and they're only achieving that, it's pretty unimpressive. I mean, even under Rishi Sunak, it was about 2.5%, wasn't it? I mean, so they were doing a lot better. We've got a little montage here, which we've been working on all morning. This is Rachel Reeves using the buzzword of the current Labour government, which is, of course, working people. Check it out.
To provide security for working people, a government on the side of working people, to secure Britain's future and to deliver prosperity for working people, to ensure security for working people. There is nothing Labour about working people paying the price for economic irresponsibility. We can spend more on the priorities of working people. When working people are paying their taxes, giving working people the chance to fulfil their potential, we protected working people. I will always put working people first.
Working people, apparently, are the answer to all of our ills. 15 times she said it. And this is an invention, isn't it, by Labour? And it's a bit of a sort of a smoke and mirrors job, because nobody really knows what they mean by working people. What we seem to think that they mean is public sector workers who don't have any savings. That would appear to be what they mean.
Well, there was just a time, I think it was really Tony Blair that sort of introduced this whole idea of using catchphrases and repeating them endlessly. And you know, for a while, we sort of, it was a new form of communication, and it was quite effective. But the trouble is, the politicians, they carry on every fashion far too long, and now we hear these things, and we know that it's a confection. They've come up with it to try and hoodwink us, and you know, don't look at the fact that the economy is stagnating. Hear us say working people, and it doesn't work anymore.
No, because people who are working know that they're worse off. They know that they're being given a shorter shrift by this government. They know that they're also subsidising the lives of more people, because we saw a statistic the other week where it said 52% of people in this country are now reliant on the government for their income. Now, whether that means they're public sector workers or they're unemployed or, you know, they're in disability benefit or whatever it is, you know, that's more than half of the population being supported by less than half of the rest of it.
And people get a tax statement. I don't know whether everyone looks at their tax statement. It's actually quite
I try not to.
It's quite interesting, actually, because it tells you what proportion of your money, where it's going. And I was actually quite surprised. I always thought that, you know, I knew that welfare and pensions was bigger than NHS. But you know now, welfare on its own is bigger than the National Health Service.
I know.
It's extraordinary fact.
It used to
welfare on its own is bigger than what we spend on the NHS. That's an extraordinary.
And this is my point to what we talked about earlier. As you said, when you worked with Ian Duncan Smith, he tried to cut back on disability allowances and all that. But in the end of the day, it always goes wrong, because you end up cutting the wrong people out, don't you? But what they should be doing is looking at all of the people who are claiming benefits for being anxious. You know, anybody under the age of 30 who says that they've got ADHD and they need a benefit payment for it and a free Motability car, you just cut them out automatically and say, look, we'll help you get a job, we'll help you get back to feeling like a normal working person, but you cannot any longer hide behind what you say the condition is that you've got, which prevents you from working, because it doesn't. No,
what we need is a very much more strict regime. People do need support from welfare to work, but actually there's very few young people who should be on benefits, and certainly the number of people we have at the moment on benefits is way too much.
It's way too much.
And the country can't afford it.
No, but I mean, do you have any hope or even faith that they will make those cuts and make them properly?
No, because I think they're just cutting them without sort of really putting in any reform, and so I'm pessimistic, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Not a very happy thought for this sunny morning.
Sometimes you have to be pessimistic. I'm about as optimistic a person as you'll ever meet, but I mean, I'm optimistic because I know what I'm going to have to do to continue to be successful in life, and it won't be anything to do with the government, and I'll have to find ways of making sure that they don't take any more tax off me as best I can, in all legal ways that I can do it, because I'm sick to death of subsidising a load of ne'er-do-wells and migrants who come into this country on my shilling. And I'm like lots of other people. I work hard for a living. Some people don't call it work. You know, they say to me, you know, you've never done a day's work in your bleeding life, just sit there and talk crap. But actually, it is quite hard to get up at 4:20 every single morning.
I couldn't do it.
And I have to give up certain things. I have to go to bed early and all of that.